Good morning, everybody. This is Pamela on Speak Up for Our Future. And when I say speak up for our future, we need to do it and we need to do it now. And as the banner says, it's time to convict Trump for his crimes. I'm sure you heard that there is a surprise session of the January 6th committee. And I cannot wait to see what's going to happen now. And to the haters out there that want to bombard me with boomer comments, you'll be removed and blocked, first and foremost. Again, I'm sure as you heard as of the last couple of days that we have lost Roe versus Wade, which means a young woman cannot get an abortion should she need one. I know there's a lot of people that are pro-life, but you need to understand that there are young people that can get raped and sodomized and could be forced to carry that monster's baby. And I don't think a woman with good sense would want to do that. It's just like if I was on that bus back in 2007, 2008 on New Year's weekend, I had some guy want to take a piece of me. If he were to have his way and I could not get away, being that I'm a person in a wheelchair when I'm outside this house, I could be forced to carry that bastard's baby if it was done back in that time where they overturned Roe versus Wade. And that's just the beginning. Pretty soon, they'll probably attack LGBTQ rights, disability rights, all that. And it's one thing that I've learned a long time ago, that America is not made for people that have differences. Whether you're disabled, gay, straight, bi, tri, who cares? You cannot be in this country unless you're white, unless you have nothing wrong. That's an impossible thing to consider because everybody has something wrong with them. Just like I have a disability. I suffer from depression. I have rapid heartbeats. I have other things going on that I don't want to talk about here. Everybody has something wrong with them. And if you think you're going to have the perfect race, forget it. But I have learned that most people in positions of power don't want women to have any rights. They don't want them to have a job. They don't want women to have a secure future. And that's just not the way the world works. We have to share the space. We are all one people, one planet. I've always believed that. Shouldn't matter whether you were gay, straight, bi, tri, disabled, not disabled, black, brown, purple, yellow, polka dot, striped, non-conformed. People count. At least it's what I was led to believe when I was younger. But not in Trump's society. No. We've already lost Roe versus Wade. What's next? Church and state? They don't want gun control. I've been following this shit. I just don't want to talk about it because it gets me all upset. Because number one thing that I worry about is my niece and others like her. Especially those for disabilities that can't speak, that can't tell you what's wrong. If they fall and hurt something, they can't tell you what's wrong. If they're raped, sodomized, they can't tell you what's going on. Not her fault. Not her mother's fault. Because now, if she gets raped, God forbid she doesn't, but in the event that she does, she may be forced to carry that child. And I follow a guy by the name of Texas Tom on the Midas Touch channel who talked about something that they call a snitch law down there in Texas. He says he's lived in the state of Texas his whole life, and he's learned about something called a snitch law, that if somebody takes you to an abortion clinic, you could be charged with murder. The doctor could be charged with murder. Family members could be charged with murder. Any family members that were aiding and abetting a woman trying to get help to get the abortion or any other care she needs, she could go to jail. They could be charged with murder and possibly never let out. And I worry about my niece because she cannot speak for herself. And I worry about other women that are going to be shamed by having to carry a rapist's baby. Not fair. And when I talked about a guy wanting a piece of me, that did actually happen. Except I was strapped down on a special needs bus called Urban Express in the middle of the evening. And I couldn't unstrap my wheelchair because the seat was right up on me, the back of the seat. So I couldn't get up and get off the bus. At that time, I didn't have a fucking cell phone. I could have died that night. So you don't think that I don't know what a young woman goes through when they're raped? Oftentimes they're not believed. They're made to feel inferior. And even if they do use contraception, women have been known to get pregnant. So it's a lose-lose situation. And many businesses, such as the Walt Disney Company, are doing everything they can to make sure their employees get the help that they need, whether it's an abortion or other medical procedures that need to be done. And I have to applaud them for that. They're putting their jobs on the line. They're putting their, they say good name. Yeah. I mean, it's just sad. Even Stephen King talked about how our rights are being stripped away. The rights for gun control, the rights between church and state. They're wanting to take everything away. They're going after the women's things. They're going after the gay rights. What happened with Roe versus Wade is just the beginning of a big cataclysm that we are going to be facing in this country. There'll be no freedoms. And I'm thinking about staying home from the July 4th celebrations. Even though I want to see my sister, I just don't feel like celebrating this year. I can't. Especially when they allow scumbags like Trump to get away with crimes that could boggle the mind. It just boggles the mind how that fucker is able to get away with committing crimes. And now I hear some guy on the street is facing assault charges by accidentally tapping Rudy Giuliani. What a bunch of bullshit. Let's see what they're saying on some of these news feeds here. Hold on. Let's see. Go to Yahoo and see what they're saying. Yeah, there's talking about, there's one story. She was with Donald Trump on January 6th of 2021. Cassidy Hutchinson's closed-door testimony has already been cited as the source of multiple revelations uncovered at the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack. So let's start with that here. Okay. Let's see. Go in here to my chat here. Let's see. Who is Cassidy Hutchinson? The ex-White House aide expected to testify before the January 6 panel. Let's see. The House committee, which we all know is investigating the insurrection, They are expecting to hear public testimony from Cassidy Hutchinson, a former aide to Donald Trump's White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, at a surprise hearing, which is scheduled to happen today. The official proceedings start at 1, but I follow it on Midas Touch on YouTube. And it goes on to say here, the Select Committee announced on Monday that it would be holding the last-minute hearing to present recently obtained evidence and to receive witness testimony, but declined to provide any specific details by this morning. But they say a number of news outlets were reporting that at least one of the witnesses slated to appear is Hutchins, whose closed-door testimony has been cited as the source of multiple revelations uncovered by the Select Committee's probe. A spokesperson for that committee did not immediately respond to a request for a confirmation that Hutchinson will be testifying at Tuesday's hearing. Over the past 2 weeks, the panel has held 5 public hearings at which members have been outlining the findings of their ongoing investigations into the violent attack on the U.S. Capitol by a mob of Trump supporters. The committee had also planned to take a break following the latest hearing on June 23rd. That was when the last hearing happened, ladies and gents. They had planned to take a break after June 23rd's hearing in order to hear more witness testimony and examine a variety of new evidence and has received since the hearings began. Hutchinson, who served as a special assistant to the president on legislative affairs for the Trump White House, was subpoenaed back in November of 2021, along with several other former Trump administrators who the panel believed had relevant info regarding the former president's activities on January 6th and the role he and his aides played in efforts to overturn the results of the election in 2020. So she was subpoenaed back in November of last year. And they're going to find out the activities and the role he and his aides played in their efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. According to the subpoena, Hutchinson was not only at the White House on January 6th, but she had been with Trump during his speech at the Stop the Steal rally on the Ellipse, where he urged his supporters to, quote, fight like hell, before promising to march with them to the Capitol. And it says, she also emailed Georgia officials directly following Meadows' trip to attend the state's election audit, according to the subpoena, and was present for other key meetings and conversations at the White House leading up to January 6th. Unlike her former boss, whose refusal to cooperate with the investigators has earned him a Justice Department referral for criminal contempt charges, Hutchinson has appeared before the committee on 3 separate occasions since the beginning of this year. In fact, following her most recent deposition in May, a source told CNN reportedly that Hutchinson believes she is being forced to testify due to Meadows' refusal to comply with his own subpoena. The same source said at the time Hutchinson would finally make another appearance before that committee, possibly during the public hearings. A handful of key details have emerged from her closed-door depositions that have featured prominently on the case. House investigators have been presenting to the American public. Here's a look at some of the key revelations that have already been attributed to Hutchinson. Let's see. Meadows and others pressed ahead with plans to overturn Trump's election loss, even after the White House counsel had deemed them not legally sound. The Select Committee's battle against Meadows which is sued to block the panel's subpoenas, may offer clues on how her testimony could be used in the hearings. In a filing filed in April, the Select Committee cited sections of Hutchinson's testimony as proof of the former chief's involvement to overturn the results of the 2020 election and had pursued unlawful plans to make that happen. According to the filing, she had told the committee that the White House counsel's office repeatedly objected on legal grounds to a plan to push for Republican officials in battleground states that had voted for Biden to send alternate pro-Trump states of electors to Congress, which lawmakers met on January 6 to certify the Electoral College vote count. So in other words, they were trying to put in fake electors. I know they talked about that in recent days and weeks. But they said Hutchinson told the committee that the counsel's office had concluded that the alternate electors were not legally sound, potentially, as early as November of 2021. And that this conclusion was raised by multiple meetings at the White House that involved Meadows and other Trump associates like Rudy Giuliani and members of Congress, including Reps Scott Perry, a Republican from Pennsylvania, Matt Gaetz, a Republican from Florida, and Louis Goldmart, Republican of Texas. Despite that advice, the plan had moved forward, the committee's filing states. Let me move down here. And it says the role played by Trump's advisors like Meadows had been a key focus of the committee's investigation. And The Guardian reported last month that the hearings are expected to highlight how the Trump White House pursued potentially illegal methods in Congress to subvert Joe Biden's win and the role Trump played in organizing the events that took place on that day, as Congress met to certify the Electoral College votes, including the rally at the Ellipse that preceded the Capitol riot, which left 5 people dead and more than 100 police officers injured. At that same April court filing, the Select Committee also cited her testimony as evidence that Meadows went ahead with plans for Trump's Jan 6 rally in Washington, despite receiving direct warnings of potential violence on that day. The filing includes updates from Hutchinson's march forward to Mr. Meadows, and I know that people had brought information forward that has indicated that there could be violence on January 6th. But again, I'm not sure what he did. So, yeah. It says, specifically, Hutchinson had told the committee that in early January, Meadows had discussed the potential for violence on January 6th. Says Anthony Orentano, coming in and saying that there could be violence on the 6th. Hutchinson said, and Mr. Meadows said, all right, let's talk about it. Hutchinson said that Orentano had raised the subject with Meadows on his way out of the office one evening, and that the two discussed it briefly. I believe they went to the office maybe 5 minutes. It suggests that Hutchinson has continued to provide the Select Committee with other relevant with Rep. Scott Perry, a Republican from Pennsylvania, in the weeks after the 2020 election. Again, she's following a meeting by Scott Perry in the weeks after the 2020 election. Perry has emerged as another key player in the Select Panel's investigations into Trump's efforts to overturn and documents obtained by the committee have identified Perry as the first link between the former president and Jeffrey Clark, a then known senior official at the Justice Department. It's not clear whether Hutchinson told investigators which specific papers Meadows had reportedly incinerated, or if they should by Meadows and Perry to conceal communications in the wake of the 2020 election. One text message exchange in which Perry told Meadows to just send you something on Signal, an encrypted messaging app. So apparently these morons are hiding their conversation using a support for hanging of Mike Pence. Again, the day those morons tried to overrun the Capitol, they were screaming, "Hang Mike Pence." He said he probably deserved it. Remember? You can't make this stuff up. That's the way Trump's hanging Mike Pence. Another line of inquiry for the Select Committee had been what exactly Capitol and why it took 187 minutes to bring some witness accounts. Oh, great. CVS is calling about my meds. But it says, fuck. Hang on. Yeah, it's for my medications. Sorry about that, but it happens. But it says here, investigators may need to answer those questions by sharing one witness's account has been reportedly confirmed by Hutchinson of a telling scene that took place at the White House on January. According to this account outside the Capitol, Meadows told colleagues in his office that Trump was complaining about his vice president being evacuated to safety. According to the Times, which was first to report this account, Meadows then told the colleagues that Mr. Trump said something to the effect of, maybe Mr. Pence should be hanged. The Times reported that the Select Committee first heard about Trump when he relayed what Trump had said. Meadows' lawyer denied the account to the Times. Of course they denied the account. You think they're going to be honest? No. Let's see. The Times report notes it's unclear that tone of Trump's comment, but what it uncovers is his frustration with Pence, who had refused to get him to block Congress's certification reaction to the riot and why he did Congress to do so. And they said the rioters got within 2 doors of Vice President's office. Wow. And I'll check and make sure that I shared this with you. But it stinks. I think it stinks that the president that claims to love this country, I think I shared it with you. So, yeah, we're going to leave it at that. Sad that the fool, he acted like the fool for the last 4 years. He was very brash. Even before he got in office, he said he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and not lose voters. And then he could grab women by the pussy. Not in my world, bitch. Not in my world. My body, my choice. If I don't want you to touch me, you're not allowed to touch me. And as you could tell, I'm getting red in the face. That's what Trump does. And I have a feeling that by 1 o'clock today, we are going to hear some pretty explosive testimony. In fact, we've already heard audio where he said, Pence maybe deserved to be hanged. Maybe he deserved it. If you have the other segments of this committee on your DVR, or you can watch it through Midas Touch, I got all the videos in a playlist. Go to Midas Touch on my channel here. You can watch all the testimony from 1 through 5. Day 6 starts at about 1 o'clock officially, but they have the commentary about noon. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to be watching. And I'm definitely going to be keeping close tabs on that sumbitch. Because Trump can't handle the fact that he actually lost an election. And he should have lost. Because I didn't vote for him. A lot of people are angry that I voted for what they call Sleepy Joe. But I wasn't going to put up with a power-crazed narcissist in the White House who thinks he's like the son to Vladimir Putin. Think about it. Or don't you Republicans ever think about anything but your own asses? You know, Nancy Pelosi could have been killed that day. Mike Pence could have been killed that day. Anybody on the floor could have been killed that day. Let's not forget, they were going after anybody and everybody that stood in the way of Trump's reelection. And you know what? Come in 2024, I'm going to make damn sure that Trump is not elected again. I'm going to make sure he stays out of office. And after this, I'm going to be I'm going to see if I could get my absentee ballot to get those justices off the bench. Because they're starting to take away our rights. They're starting to take away women's rights. They're starting to take away LGBTQ. They're starting to make us feel like we don't count. But you know what? Despite our differences, we are still people. We have valid concerns. We have valid worries. And if you're not willing to listen to that, then fuck you. If you think that you can't be an American and not be white, come on. If you think that America should be just plain white, it's not going to work that way. It was built on the backs of Indians and black people and Chinese. Think about it. You know, I always thought of America as the great melting pot. We learn from different cultures. We have Italians that live here, Chinese that live here, Mexican Americans live here. We have Armenians that live here. Australians that live here. One such Australian that I do know of is Rick Springfield. He's got a house here. Eric Clapton, a British guy who's not very popular right now. He has a house here. Unfortunately, in my city of Columbus, but he does have a house here. So we are the great American melting pot. Despite our differences, people can come and live here. You know, but Trump wants to do away with all that. It's not just the Mexicans. You know, we have people that live down there in Texas that are facing difficult times, especially the city of Uvalde. I'm sure you heard about the blowback from all of that. They're wanting whoever was in charge of what was to go down at the site that day, they want that guy fired. They say he failed those little kids. They found video from that very school. Some of them did have tactical gear. Some of them did have the equipment needed to go and confront the shooter. You know? But again, our country is falling backwards. I think the great experiment is dying. We don't do something about it, it's just going to be the same shit, different years. So, if you want to take away women's rights, be prepared to bury your mother should she die in birth. Be prepared to bury a daughter that may have complications. You know, nobody should have to carry a child that they don't want. You know, especially if it's done by a rapist or a scumbag. Come on. And I'll never forgive those justices who passed the overturning of Roe versus Wade. Never. Mm-mm. Because if I ever needed emergency help at Planned Parenthood, I couldn't get it now because of the new sanctions in place. And if you care to look, there's a guy on Midas Touch that talks about a snitch law down there in Texas. Oh yes, he talked about a snitch law that if a member of your family, a, a cousin, a relative, even a friend, if they're found to have taken anybody to a abortion clinic, they could be arrested and charged with murder. It is something called the snitch law. You tell us where they're at, we'll pay you. And it's sad that a woman has to fear her own autonomy. If they're going to sanction women, why don't they sanction men? Make vasectomies a permanent fixture. You have to do a vasectomy. If she doesn't want to have children, you have to have a vasectomy. Can't have one without the other. But anyway, ladies and gents, I've said all I'm going to say for now, but I may get back on later this evening. I don't know. Just depends on how I'm feeling. But I urge you guys to tune into the January 6th committee. I think on some channels it'll start at 1, but I always turn on to CNN or NBC. People need to watch this. People need to watch this because our country's future depends on it. Are we going to let a narcissist who tried to overturn the 2020 election speak for me? I don't think so. Not where I'm from. If he can't accept the fact that he lost the election, then he's not fit to run for office. And they've had questions before about certain elections, but none of them have even orchestrated and pulled off one of the darkest days in our history. This tops Watergate for sure. What happened on January 6th tops Watergate because you got people that are shape-shifting. I think it was Mo Brooks who said, take names and kick ass. He should be out of office. Trump should be out of office. Some of his kids should be arrested. Mayor Giuliani already paid with his job. Former mayor, former attorney, paid with his job. He lost his job. He's no longer allowed to practice law, period. And from what I heard, he had broken his hip or something. It's karma coming back to bite him in the ass. And let's just say the guy can't die soon enough. That is just how I feel about him. He went from a hero in 2001 to a real chump in 2021. Especially defending a guy like Donald John Trump who doesn't know the meaning of the word humanity. He doesn't know the meaning of honor. He never even served in the armed forces. So, yeah. Enough's enough, man. We got to make Trump pay for his crimes. He incited a riot. The Proud Boys took the bait. And let's just say some of the Proud Boys that had testimony in this thing, they didn't look so proud. They didn't look so proud. They were like, he lied to us. He said he was going to march with us, but he didn't. He went back to the White House and he sat there and he watched it all go down. And I have the video where Don Jr. was filming the little party that they were having. He had TV set up under a pop-up tent. They were playing rock music like Laura Branigan's Gloria. And they were going to watch it all unfold. But the one thing I learned during this insurrection committee is that some of the people that went there that day did not even stay for the Trump speech. Started out as a small group of people and then a large group of people going up to the Capitol. And some of the policemen were calling for help. They were saying, "Send backup, we need help. Send backup, we need help." One female police officer said, "I've handled maybe 2 or 3 people, but not at the amount that I saw that day. I'm not prepared to fight a war." And that's what she was fighting that day. It was a war against her own people, marching to the Capitol, tearing up the place, breaking a statue, wiping their feces and their piss everywhere. And they said over 800 plus people were arrested that day. Since this all went down, 800 plus people have been arrested. The shaman got 41 months in jail. Not long enough by my standards. Not in my America. Mm-mm. You attack the Capitol, you get 50 to 75 years, even longer than that, as far as I'm concerned. Trump lost the election. He'll never accept it, but we all know he lost. I voted for the right man, and I'm glad I did. If I had to do it again, if it was 2020, I would do it again. I would say, I'll vote for Joe. And if Joe Biden isn't going to run in 2024, I'd rather vote for Mickey Mouse or Scooby-Doo or Underdog before I would ever vote for Trump. So, there you have it. I'm going to get off, run to the restroom, and figure out what I'm going to eat. And then I'm going to watch the proceedings starting at about 12. So, yeah. I'll talk to you later. I got to call my brother. So, all right. Be sure to tune in and watch these proceedings. It's just too important not to miss. You need to watch this because our future does depend on it. We cannot have narcissist idiots running the country the way Trump has and idolizing people like Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin. Can't. Will not. And I think Trump envisions himself a Vladimir Putin or a Kim Jong-un. So think about it. Trump idolizes people that murder and kill their own people. When COVID hit, he kind of sat on his hands and didn't do a thing. Because of that, thousands of people died. But the CDC still did their jobs and got their vaccines out as fast as they could. I knew COVID wasn't a thing to fuck around with. When I heard about it at my doctor's office, I went home until shots were available. I have my shots and my booster. So, yeah. But I'll make sure in 2024 to not vote for Trump. That ain't going to happen. Not in my house. So, yeah. Be sure to tune into the committee hearings starting at about 1. But if you want to watch on CNN, it starts at noon. Their coverage begins at noon, and I think it runs until about 4 o'clock. So, have a good day, everybody. I've got to take a serious leak, and I will talk to you later. Bye.